going to be your moderator tonight, and I will be assisted by my co-moderator, Rod Brown. Both of us live here in District 1 in the city of South Fulton. Tonight, we will be going over the Senate District 35 Town Hall, and our candidates are Mike Glanton Jr., Lula Gilliam, Whitney Kenner-Jones, as well as the incumbent, Donzella James. I would like to thank you for joining. I just wanted to share my screen for a moment, and actually I don't need to share my screen. I wanted to go over a little bit about the South Fulton Coalition. So the mission of the South Fulton Coalition is to implement action programs for the continued improvement, accountability, and integrity of the city of South Fulton government and as elected officials. We focus on areas such as to educate, disseminate information, and engage City of South Fulton residents, to advocate on behalf of City of South Fulton residents and interact with leadership to ensure community-driven input into decision-making, and to provide financial support to causes that promote our mission and benefit our community. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Ron Booth, who will lead us in a prayer.
Thank you, Richard.
No problem.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come before your presence. Father, we pray that you'll bless each one of our candidates and everyone else attending this town hall meeting. Please help us all to be quick to listen and slow to speak. We thank you, we praise you, Lord, and we bless your holy name. It's in the powerful, mighty, magnificent name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Let's have a great town hall. Richard.
Amen. Thank you so much. Now, for this town hall, we have 4 candidates. Do we have all 4 candidates on the line? I see Ms. Gilliam, Mr. Glanton, Ms. James. Do we have Whitney Kenner-Jones on the line?
I'm sorry. Hi, Richard. This is Erin on behalf of Whitney Kenner-Jones. Sadly, she will be unable to attend on this evening. I wrote you in a previous email in regards to that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Are you going to be a proxy for her?
I will not be, no.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you letting me know and letting the audience know. Thank you so much. All right. So to get started, I would like to give the candidates 5 minutes each for opening remarks. And we will start with Ms. Gilliam. The floor is yours.
Oh my goodness. Thank you all very much for having me here tonight. I look forward to this informational session. Well, first, my name is Lula Gilliam. I was born and raised in Vicksburg/Redwood, Mississippi. I moved to California after leaving Mississippi. I graduated from the University of California at Berkeley. I also went from there to moving back to the South. I moved to Atlanta in 1987. My daughter is a product of Fulton County Schools. She graduated from Creekside. And also after Creekside, she graduated from Georgia Tech. Since I came to Georgia, my entire life has been about community. And I was listening to you, Mr. Snelling, when you said you implement action programs in South Fulton. And that's what my life has really been about. I started a nonprofit in 1990 to address the challenges that our out-of-school youth population that they were dealing with. I provide GED programs, empowerment programs in terms of post-secondary options once my young people achieve their GED. I have so many success stories from here in South Fulton from students who did not complete schools at Banneker, at Tri-Cities, Westlake. They came into my program, and for the last 30 years, I nurtured them and made sure that they were going into post-secondary options that would enable them to have living wage opportunities. So that has been my life story. And in addition to that, I've also been working with the Atlanta NAACP. I've chaired the education committee for the last 10, almost 10 years. I also had worked with labor and industry at the NAACP. Additionally, in addition to that, I work with the Alliance Theater. I am also a part of their education committee as well as New Works Committee. So everything that I have been doing is about servicing our communities, making sure that the young people in our community have access to the Alliance Theater through our education committee. And I am most passionate in terms of public policy. I call myself the education candidate. I know that we can do better in South Fulton, and I want to see us excel. Over at Skyview, which is on Old National, they have a 2.6, I believe, no, 2.9 graduation rate. And McLaren in South Fulton has a 42.2%. So we can do better. I want to work to make sure that all of our schools are in the 90th plus percentile in performing, to give our young people the opportunity that they need and they deserve in order to work in an ever evolving marketplace. So I will answer. I look forward to speaking with everyone and talking about education and some of the other issues that are very important to me. You can go to my website at www.electlulagillum.com and see some of the other priorities I have, such as affordable housing. What does real criminal justice reform look like? So just, I'm looking forward to talking to everyone. I don't know if I got to my 5 minutes, but I just didn't want to go over.
You are at 4 minutes now.
Okay, that's fine.
All right. Well, thank you for that introduction. Now, the next candidate we have is going to be Mike Glanton Jr. The floor is yours. Please unmute yourself.
Ms. Gillum, that 5 minutes gets long, right?
Well, I could go on for 5 days, really.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. First of all, I want to tell everybody thank you for being here. Thank you for being in attendance. Thank you for the South Fulton Coalition for this platform and this opportunity. We are gracious for you all taking this initiative and putting this out there. My name is Mike Glanton Jr. and I am a candidate for the Georgia State Senate. That's why we're here. I am very passionate about my community. I care a lot about my community. I also believe in my community that with the right resources and the right people in place, that my community can be great as the aspiring thoughts that we have for it to be. I'm also extremely excited for just the future possibilities that we have in District 35 in Douglasville, City of South Fulton, Lithium Springs. It's a very diverse district, but it is also a district that is also in a unique position of development, a unique position of us being able to restructure our educational system, as well as get on board to help support the municipalities that are within the community, within that district. I am also just extremely excited about bringing politics to the forefront for people that may think that politics is not for them. But I tell people all the time, when you walk out that door, you're subject to policy and laws. So for the person that says that, this is not something that bothers me or something that affects me, then I like to try to bring that relatability and that understanding to them as well through politics. I'm a political consultant by trade. I have been a political consultant for the last 15 years. I've worked on campaigns from governors to United States senators to representatives to local, state, and municipal officials. I've also ran my own campaign and worked on my own campaign 4 years ago. So I'm a firm believer in you don't get back up, you don't get back out there unless you really believe in the change that you can bring. Because enough people run for just other reasons. My main purpose for running is to put my community in the best possible position to bring the resources and the ideas that people feel like they have that are unheard. And so I am a very big proponent of restoring the voice back to the people. And also being able to understand that certain things in place create a better synergy for our community, which is education, economic development, as well as transit. You know, those are things that put us in the best possible position to grow economically. I think that that's always something that we've been thinking about on the back end, but I want to bring that back to the forefront, as well as I think a question I was asked today about economic development. And I think that we start from community planning and planning community development, as well as planning with the community to ensure that when you ride by an area and you see a new development, the community wanted that, not just some politicians that are making deals behind people's backs or making deals in the midnight hour and not allowing people that inclusion that they deserve. So my voice is your voice, and my voice is for the people to be able to bring back that understanding and that quality back to politics. Basically, meet you where the rubber meets the road. I want to be able to be in that position to just strengthen my community, as well as the young people, as well as the seniors. You know, I think that they need important resources. And, you know I can go on and on as well, but I'm sure we'll get into it. But my name is Mike Glanton Jr., and I'm ready to work for District 35 and all of the entire state of Georgia and everybody else underneath.
Thank you so much. You were at 4 minutes as well. I appreciate that.
Hey.
Now, I would like to turn it over to the incumbent, Ms. Donzella James. You have the floor. Please unmute yourself. You have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Senator Donzella James, and I consider it a true honor to serve the people of the 35th District in the state of Georgia. I currently serve on the Economic Development Committee for the state of Georgia and Education and Youth, Special Judiciary Committee, and I actually chair a committee, only one of 3 Democrats out of the whole House and Senate, and that is the Interstate Corporation Committee, which is a standing committee. I also am the whip of the Black Caucus of Georgia, and it's the largest Black caucus in the nation, 66 strong. And I am in the leadership in the state Senate, and I actually sit down with other chairmen, and we talk about the issues. But of course, I'm in the minority party, so it's very difficult sometimes to get bills passed, but I'm there to listen to the pros and cons and sometimes kill a bill before it even gets to the floor. I've passed many, many pieces of legislation in the past, and our session just ended after midnight on this past Monday, a couple of days ago, and I was able to pass 5 bills, and that's probably more than most people because I have built coalitions. I have the experience, the knowledge. I work with the other side of the aisle when I can, of course. You can't get anything passed unless you have the votes. So you have to work on the issues that we agree on, and they know that they can't just run something by me because I have a reputation of being unbought and unbossed and committed to the people and not the politics, and especially the democratic ideals and principles that we sustain throughout our party. I have been called an environmentalist because over the years, I've put legislation in to have a safe and clean community. I helped years ago to work on the Keep South Fulton Beautiful, and actually chaired it when I first moved into our community. I'm born and raised in Atlanta, Grady baby, but I've lived in South Fulton my entire adult life. And in fact, when I was in my 20s, and my husband and I moved out in Cliftondale, we had 2 little baby sons. And so they went through the public school system in our community. It was a Cliftondale Elementary School there, and I ended up going to the PTA meeting, and the next time I look up, they nominated me to be president. And we moved forward while my kids were there. Years later, they went to Westlake High School, and I ended up both times, even though they were 6 years apart, both times I ended up as president of the PTA at Westlake High School when my two boys were there. I am one who worked very hard on making safe roads because unfortunately the year that my son my youngest son was a senior at Westlake, he got killed by a drunk driver. And I had just gotten in office, so I helped to change the laws and strengthen the DUI laws in the state of Georgia and work with Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And I continue to work with them because I couldn't bring Carrie back, but I definitely wanted to make sure that other people did not have to lose their loved ones or have them maimed because of irresponsible people who drink and drug and then get behind the wheel of a car, and instead of a vehicle, it becomes a weapon. I don't know how close I'm getting to my 5 minutes, but
You have about 30 seconds left.
okay, well, I just thank you very much for hosting this tonight. And I'm glad I found out yesterday that you were having it. And thank you very much.
All right, thank you. I had previously sent you the invitation, so I'm not sure if it got lost in your email, but I appreciate that you were able to join. We're going to turn this over to the community at this point. So the way we're going to do this is, if you have a question for any of the candidates or all the candidates, if you can raise your hand, and as you raise your hand, we will acknowledge you. If you can use the reactions option at the bottom of your screen and just use the raise hand feature, that's how I'll know that you have a question. So at this time, I would like to turn it over to members of the community that may have a question. Mel Keaton, you have the floor. Please unmute yourself.
All right. Hey, to any, as you would know, we have a growing problem in the city of South Fulton, especially on our state roads, Highway 92 and South Fulton Parkway. One is lighting. We don't have any lighting on that road, on either of those roads. And we also have no speed limit signs. And I would like to know if there's something that can be done, and what is the plan on having that issue fixed, because we've been complaining about that a long time. And just recently, a month ago, a lady lost her husband, and we just want to know what can be done about that, and what are the plans on getting that rectified.
Now, as a reminder, you have 2 minutes to respond, and we will start with you, Ms. Gilliam. Gilliam, you are muted. If you can unmute.
Well, thank you for the question, Mr. Keaton. There are a number of roads that need immediate attention. 92 is one, and also at the corner of 138 and Bethsaida, there have been 2 deaths there. But what I would recommend that we do is to have a relationship with the Department of Transportation for these state roads, as well as with our local government, because there definitely needs to be a lot done, because we cannot afford to keep losing lives because we're not having corrective lighting, enough lighting, or that we are not having the traffic signals that we should stop having to beg. There's money there, and there's even more money coming down through the infrastructure that President Biden is putting in place. But talking to Commissioner Murray, who is at the Department of Transportation, and I have interacted with him through my work with the Atlanta NAACP. And this should not be such a hard fix. Just going and making sure you have the right person to go and be your advocate.
Thank you so much. Do any of the other candidates want to chime in?
Yes. Okay. I'll wait. Go ahead.
By all means, Senator, go ahead.
Well, first of all, we do meet with DOT on a regular basis. It's unfortunate that people have lost their lives on South Fulton Parkway. And I definitely have met not only me, but Mandisha Thomas, who is a state rep, and some of the city council persons have, I asked them to join me as we talk to the DOT officials to try to make that road safer. We were able to make sure that the trucks that were lined up on South Fulton Parkway to turn into the new Amazon, and that caused not just that one wreck, but about 4 lives have been lost as a result in the past few months. And we have worked with them to correct it and find another way to get in and out of there, and for them to give us time limits and to not have over 5 or 6 long haul trucks to be lined up to turn into their company. So that's one thing. We've also on 92 and on South Fulton Parkway, we continue to try to get double lanes or turn lanes, lights, but I will get some speed limit signs now that you mentioned it. Nobody ever really contacted their legislators, who the DOT works for the state of Georgia. And your legislators are your avenue into the DOT. I work with our person, Ms. Lemons, who is on the board of DOT, always to try to make sure that we address the signs, the lights that we need, turn signals, and even up by McDonald's up there on 92 near.
Yep.
We're
15
trying.
seconds remaining.
Okay.
15 seconds remaining. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just end by saying we are working on it. We have written many letters, and we've gone before the board, and we're going to be there until they make the difference, make the changes.
Thank you, Mr. Glanton. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Keaton, for the question. One of the first things I would do, like I said at the last forum, is we don't have a challenger in November. So though that after we finish this primary, one of my first duties on the ground as a senator-elect would be to connect with the community. For one, I would also be trying to work on fostering those relationships with the DOT and inviting them to the community. As a person who has dealt with infrastructure problems, road problems, potholes, I've been on the side of the road with a flat tire on South Fulton Parkway at nighttime. And so I know how dangerous and how scary it is for you to hear 18-wheelers zooming by you and cars zooming by you. And we've lost lives, mothers, fathers. We've lost lives at the corner of Jones Road and 92. We've lost our children's lives at the corner of Butner Road and 92. So I would invite these officials out for a tour around these areas that we feel are in desperate need of speed bumps or street speed limits, as well as red lights, as well as stop signs, and just start addressing this issue, because we can talk all day about it and we can come back and we can bring you, things that we're saying that we're trying to do. But when we got situations that are dire as it's losing individuals and losing quality citizens to no fault of their own, just a breakdown, then we need to basically bring people out here on the ground to be able to see what we're asking them to see. And we would definitely form that partnership with the DOT to try to get those things done, and not just try, really push forward, push hard, as well as working with our municipalities on how they can improve our infrastructure problems and issues that by just not going around their back, but by bringing it to them, as well as helping, listening to their solutions, as well as working together with the DOT, our solutions as a community, and the municipality leaders as a community, and a totality of working together to put that together. And so that would be my focus on that issue right there. But I appreciate you for that question, Mr. Keaton. And I assure you that's one of the first things that we'll be working on.
Thank you so much. I would like to acknowledge Samantha Hudson. Please unmute your microphone. You now have the floor.
Hi, I'm Samantha Hudson from Fairburn. A lot of what you all identified are problems in our community. A large part of your role as senator will be to legislate. Most of what we know that occurs in our community is based off of two things. There's been no attention to the problem, and there's been no legislation to address the problem. My question is, what legislation would you be seeking to write that will address the issues that are currently occurring on South Fulton, as well as the poor managed infrastructure in our cities?
Can I answer that first? Thank you, Ms. Samantha, for the question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We hear you.
Thank you, Ms. Samantha, again for the question. One of the first things I will be working on is getting on board with the Democratic Party and expanding Medicaid and Medicare in the state of Georgia. Because unfortunately, accidents are going to happen. Accidents are going to occur. And when they occur, we have to be able to have a healthcare facility in the proper proximity to be able to get people the proper help that they need to be able to survive. You know, now you may walk outside and break a leg, and because of your geographical location, you just may lose that leg because you don't have adequate timing in between getting to a proper healthcare facility to address those needs, opposed to having to possibly get stuck in traffic, or if you had to get yourself there in a quick and a hurry. So these are things that we have to start working on to be proactive so that we won't be so reactive to everything that happens in our community. As well as all of the undevelopment that's going on in our area, I would start immediately working on economic development and trying to tie the two with education and economic development, because our kids need and they deserve the right to have a clear path to careers, whether they go to college or not. So our economic development, our education would be something huge that I would immediately start trying to get on board, because those things help us in our home values. They help us with people relocating to our city, as well as being able to bring proper businesses and be able to raise proper business for our city. So I would definitely, those would be pieces of legislation I would want to work on first in terms of getting our community back in the green.
Thank you. Are there any other candidates that would like to address this question? Ms. Gilliam, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Hudson, for your question. We have a myriad of problems, that we're faced with in South Fulton. And as I said, I've been living here for 31 years. And one of the main concerns I have is our educational system. We have to work to make sure that everything is excellent within our system. We have entirely too many substitute teachers that are coming into our schools and teaching core courses that they are not equipped to handle. And as a result, our young people suffer, especially when they start to take the SATs. So I'm very concerned about that. And I would love to, push legislation to make sure that, a young person is not sitting in, our students aren't sitting in classes with substitute teachers for 1 and 2 years. And this has been happening, very much so. I would also like to tackle affordable housing. We have a problem here. Public housing has become, the extended stay hotel. That's where a lot of our families are living. We must address insecurity of homelessness and food insecurities. Would love to do something in that arena. And also, as I mentioned before, what does real criminal justice reform look like? It doesn't look like what they are passing off now as that. We should be working with the Department of Corrections to make certain that when our returning citizens, even though they call them returning citizens, they are treating them like anything but. They cannot vote. I would love to work on making sure that people returning from incarceration, that they are able to vote, but also most importantly, that they are trained for living wage jobs within the prison system, so that when they come back out into their communities and our communities, that they can, we can up in poverty by making sure that they have the skills they need to do well. And I'm not talking about checking a box like, okay, yeah, we're, putting them somewhere to wash dishes. No, we
You
need
have
to make
15
certain.
seconds remaining.
Okay, thank you. Make certain that our returning citizens also are treated well.
Thank you so much. Ms. James, did you want to address that question?
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you for the question. I'd like to just ask you if you look at the legislative sessions when it's going on. It is televised, and it is every single day that you could go on and watch it. And also it's in the archives. We are addressing these issues and working very hard to get bills passed. The very issues that everybody has mentioned, much of that has already even been done, but we're not in the majority party. We need you to get out and vote in more people who think like you and who want things that you want. Now, if you look at what happened in the session, you can go on the website now and see not 100 bills or 200, but more than 1,000. And that's how many we addressed from January until this past Monday. We worked day and night listening to all these bills, debating those issues and trying to get something passed. And I was just fortunate enough to get money in the budget for our district. And it includes all of Fairburn and Union City as well. And as the city of South Fulton and Douglas County and Lithia Springs, yes. And I wanted to make sure that we get our fair share and more. And so there are people who are working, but it's not, if you're not doing anything bad or criminal, then most people don't know about it unless they take the initiative to go on the website and start reading it, or to come to our town hall meetings that are always scheduled, and it's only the same people always mostly coming to them. But all of your House and Senate members have been having them, including myself. Even when I had COVID, as soon as I finished, I came back and I had two town hall meetings last year. So we work hard, remaining. Smart, and for you. And thank you very much. I would love to talk one-on-one with you.
All right, thank you. Now, before I go to Mayor Khalid, there was a follow-up question on this topic, which was, and I believe this is for Senator James. Since you are unable to get it passed, do you feel it's time to let someone else come in and try? You are on mute.
I'm not unable to get things passed. In fact, I'm known as the person that has passed more legislation than anybody else in the House and Senate. That's what is not just a reputation, it's warranted. So please look and see. It's very difficult to pass a piece of legislation. And what we need is people to support the legislation and come up and work with us. All our citizens, we're there day and night for you. And I don't know what in particular you're talking about. Even say the city of South Fulton, it took us years of continuing to reintroduce the legislation. And it was not one person who couldn't get it done. It was the whole group of people who could not convince the other legislators to vote for that bill. But we didn't give up. We continued to work until we passed it. And I was the author of the Senate legislation to create the city of South Fulton. And then the governor put me on the committee to help to form the city after it was passed by referendum by all the citizens. I live in the city of South Fulton, so I was very happy to work on that. I can, and not only can get them passed, you can go and look at my record and see the hundreds of bills that I've gotten passed and the money that I've gotten sent back over to our district.
Thank you so much. Oh,
You're welcome.
I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt. Thank you so much. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Mayor Khalid. You have the floor. Please unmute yourself.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you for the South Fulton Coalition for putting this together, and for all the candidates for coming. Senator James, thank you for all that you've done. I do want to go back to something that Mr. Glanton Jr. was talking about, and that is our hospitals and emergency rooms. So this week, Wellstar South Metro on Cleveland Avenue, which is South Fulton County's only hospital, announced that it would be closing its emergency room. It's going to convert that emergency room to an urgent care facility, which is something, but not enough for people that are in accidents, car accidents, or other emergency situations, which we have all the time. South Fultonites regularly wait 30 minutes to an hour or more for ambulances to come from Grady. Grady is our EMS provider. Before that, we had rural Metro South, and people waited even longer. We talked about forming our own emergency transport service, but state law prohibits us from doing that. This is becoming even more dire now that with the closing of this emergency room, people who are already having to wait an hour for an ambulance are then going to have that ambulance get through traffic to Atlanta or Cobb or Fayette or Clayton, some other county. So my question is, what can you do if elected or reelected? What can you do to change this law so that we can provide our own ambulance service? And more importantly, what can we do to keep, attract, and maintain a hospital here in South Fulton County?
Thank you for the question. Ms. Gilliam, would you like to take the question first? You are on mute. If you can unmute yourself.
I did. Thank you. Well, what we have to understand also is that this is going to have to be a collaborative effort, and it must be with our mayor and council people, as well as, in Union City, in Fairburn, and City of South Fulton, that we need to work with everyone in order to move this forward. It's very important that this happens, that we have our emergency services, that people do not have to wait, our citizens do not have to wait for 15 to 20 minutes before an emergency vehicle can come and get them, because that's a matter of life and death. But we absolutely have to work in collaboration with state officials as well as with our local municipalities in order to get something done.
As we started on this, we made the analogy of you could lose your leg based on where you're located at. My oldest daughter was born at South Fulton Medical Center. So South Fulton Medical Center has been the only medical center that we've had in place for a while. So just as I was on the way over here, I was looking at that news story of how they were planning on closing and how the mayor of East Point was supposed to be talking to them. But I do agree as well that we have to approach this from a regional, South Fulton regional perspective, as well as even including our neighbors of Douglas County. The need is here. The need is there. Now that that's closed, we must divert people all the way down to Grady, which is a farther destination to even get to. So we put not only the regular citizens in harm's way, but we put our first responders, the people that we asked to protect us, that we asked to stand in the line of fire, up against that same stigma, as well as the community people not being able to get to proper medical facilities. I can also remember just before we became a city of something that my own family had to deal with as one of our relatives passed away, and we had to cover her with a sheet as people started to begin to come to the house to pay their respects, because there wasn't an emergency service or a coroner to come and get my aunt from off the floor. So that was devastating to my family, but that was something that we had to deal with. These are normal hardships that we're dealing with in our community that we shouldn't have to. So I would be a very, very fierce advocate on a healthcare facility in our South Fulton County area. And I will work really hard with getting each and every city on board with understanding what we all need to do as a legislator. See, as a legislator, we can't do everything. But what we can do is we can use the office to unify the other cities that are in our districts. And that's what I plan to do with this state sentencing.
Thank you. Ms. James, would you like to answer this question as well?
Thank you very much. Of course, we need more access to healthcare, and Mr. Mayor, thank you for asking this question. We have looked into what we could do to bring a hospital to South Fulton. And of course, you have to have a COD, yes, not CID, COD. And you have, and we don't have, and they only give X amount to the whole state of Georgia and to different areas. And our region did have this South Fulton Hospital. And it doesn't matter whether it's Wellstar, Atlanta Medical, Emory, or whatever, you have to have that already. And we used to have this hospital on Fairburn Road years ago, and it closed up and it became, I believe, like a doctor's building or something. But the doctors who were over there were African Americans, and they still have that CID. So they had already looked at seeing what they could do to bring a hospital to South Fulton using that same one that they've already earned. And they talked about it all last year. So I don't know what they're doing about it now, but I'd be happy to put them in touch with you, Mr. Mayor, and the other city council persons. I've been talking to them on a regular basis. And then they got to a point where since COVID came and the pandemic was closing, it was caused and not having rooms in hospitals, the talks stopped for a while. Maybe we can bring them back now, especially since South Fulton Hospital is closing down. So that is something I would be happy to work on with all of you.
Thank you so much for addressing that question. I
Mr.
would like
Snelling,
to.
would you mind if I step in for a second? See,
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
You know, what I see is a situation where this is kind of treated like a restaurant. You know, this is not a restaurant. This is our healthcare. This is our future at stake. And so I think our community needs to be proactive instead of reactive. Now, I appreciate the mayor for the question. I appreciate the efforts of our current incumbent, but I also think that we need to start approaching these things from a proactive standpoint, because we've always known that we've needed a hospital in this area for the last 6 to 7 years at least. You know, that incident I was talking about with my family member was at least 5 years ago. So these are things that we already have to get out in front of. We can't be reactive at this point. We have to be already putting these things in place. So this is something that I wouldn't take and waste time on. This is something I would definitely get forward.
Thank you for the response. Now I am going to call on Lula Gilliam, and then we will turn it over to Rod to ask some questions from the chat. Ms. Gilliam, please unmute your microphone. Thank you.
Okay, I saw someone had asked what was a COD. I believe the terminology is certificate of need, and it's certificate of need, and it's very competitive. Very competitive. Yes. A lot of these hospitals are competing with each other, and they try at every instance to block certificate of needs from other hospitals opening up. So it's not going to be impossible, but it's going to be a daunting task, of course, but it's not impossible.
Thank you so much. I would like to turn it over to Rod. You have the floor. Please unmute your microphone. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for those of you who are joining us, just participating, and of course, the interest in the health of our city and our district. The questions that I am seeing in the chat obviously are about the hospital, and one of the participants wants really just an action plan or an action that our either candidates or our incumbent have actually done already or plan to do. So if there is something specific that you can add to what has already been stated about what you'd like to do, that would be the first question. The other question is sort of in general, and it's kind of for every candidate, and it is, what do you see your main role, your main duties would be? Why do you feel that you're the best candidate to do it? And then the third and final question that I'll ask right now is piggybacking on the criminal justice reform. And that question was about introducing legislation where corporate entities pay wages that are normal wages and put that money in a system so that when people get out of jail, they can use that for housing or for education or for auto so that they can get to and from work, things of that nature. So the three questions again are: one, just an action plan about getting in a hospital in our area. The second one is your duties and why you feel you're best suited for it. And the third one is in reference to criminal justice reform and forcing corporations to pay living wages to prison labor so that they can use that money themselves that they've earned for betterment of their lives. And that's for every candidate.
All right, so I'll start out answering the question. To whoever, I don't know, was that question from you, Mr. Rod?
Which of the three?
All three of them. None of them were from you?
No, the chat one is from a young lady online. The one in general, just about what your role is and why you feel it's the best. That's just a general question I thought was good for the audience. And the third one was in response to Lulu's statement about criminal justice. Okay. Okay,
so first of all, to answer the question to number one, and thank you to whoever asked that question. Like we had previously stated, we would definitely start getting on board with the cities that are within this district and within this region to start working on that certificate of need, because like Ms. Gillum and Senator James said, these are proponents that we need firsthand. But like I said, when I get in office, if the people elect me, that will be one of the first things that I will be working on, because we've been talking about this. So because hospitals are competing, while they're competing, we're dying. While they're competing, we're at risk. So whatever we have to do to be able to put things in place to expedite that or to be able to get that done will be one of my number one priorities and what I would definitely want to work on as far as that. That would be my action plan for that. First, addressing that certificate of need so that we can be able to address, like I said, the need that we know we need. But if we want to go the data route first, then that's what we got to do first. Number two, what makes me unique for this position is because, or what makes me best for this position is because as most of us slept on Monday, things like HB1 were passed. Things like that remind me of two words of relevance and rigor. They create, with our educators trying to teach our students and our youth, they need relevance. They need to be able to teach them accuracy and be able to teach them correctly. These things, right, these bills and this type of legislation ties our educators' hands, and it also creates a rigor for our students to be able to, that challenge that it creates for them to be able to learn and be efficient with growing. So one of my biggest parts of my platform are economic development and career development, to be able to start giving children in our youth a direct streamline to a career, and by being able to involve the industries to help offset some costs to be able to, give educators higher pay and be able to add those resources in the classroom, because they can start cutting their budget from other places because we're giving them direct access to be able to maturate these students through the curriculum process, through the educational process, which ultimately makes us stronger, lowers the recidivism rate, raises the retention rate, and it starts getting people back in touch with their community. It also takes away a lot of hardships. If we're working for industries and we're making good money and it's right around the corner from us, we're not spending that money on gas. We're not spending that money on food and other places. We're able to get back to the house and start to bring dinner back in and start to add that quality time back into our family, because we can talk about legislation and policy all day, but if we get away from understanding that legislation and policy and laws and rules can create another environment for us to be able to put back in our family, now we're adding back to the quality of our kids' life, adding back to the quality of our life and our community. Right now, we're going so fast that we're not able to do that because there's so much pressure of so many other things that are normal hardships and normal everyday operations to be able to succeed. So that's, I think, what makes me best for that, because I am a relatable person, because I am willing to get out there and do the work, and because I have been doing the work throughout the years with young people, introducing them to politics from an educational standpoint. I think the third question was about forcing industries to be able to, the prison system to be able to pay livable wages. Now, everybody understands that we live in a day and time to where people may have a mugshot or two. That doesn't make them bad. That doesn't make them completely bad. Yeah, people have been reformed and they have been released. So they have every right to be able to come back into society without that fear of, I can't do this, or I didn't have this opportunity, or I didn't have an opportunity to start. And now they go back to being repeat offenders. We all know that individuals that don't feel like they have another chance, they usually go back to what they're comfortable with. And we don't want people thinking that going back to a life of crime or going to a method of survival is comfortable. So we have to be able to put things in place so that when these citizens are re-released back out into society, they're being able to have that leg up, well, is to be successful so that they can reform their life and be back. Because a lot of individuals that come out of the prison system can be productive given the chance. Thank you for the questions as well.
Just one moment. I wanted to be clear about that third question. It really is focusing on making sure that when people are imprisoned and they are working there, that they have funds available to them when they leave. So it's not about a focus on the prisoners themselves and those who are being released. It's about what can be done to make sure that corporations pay them money that is a livable wage, so that the money that they're, I imagine that a way that could be done is that the money that they're getting now, they can continue to keep getting, but they're also amassing money that is above that, which would meet a livable wage, so that when they get out, they're not begging. They have earned money, a down payment for a home, or they have earned money to purchase a car. They have earned money for that education. That is more the question. Okay.
Okay. Well, I apologize, Mr. Ryan, for the question, for misreading the question, but I would definitely support that, because it sounds like the slave wages, and because a person has gone through the system doesn't mean that they have to be treated like a slave. So I definitely would support that, to encourage them to be able to be productive once they're getting back out. And they do have that opportunity without starting over.
Thank you so much. Does anyone else want to address this question?
I will do it. At the action plan that he was asking for is already in place if you're talking about hospitals. Because if you heard me correctly, I said that we have been working with doctors who already have the COD, but it's not in use anymore. And they wanted to use it to build a hospital somewhere. And they were looking for a location. At first, they were looking on Old National Highway and different places. And I put them in touch with some of the people who were in that area that owned property, because they were looking for property first. So we've been working, and as far as not being proactive, that is what you call being proactive, because nobody else was talking about a hospital being here. But of course, I knew that as one who fought so many years to get the city of South Fulton, that we definitely needed a good hospital in our area. So I have been working with them, and they did stop because of COVID, and it hasn't started back up again, but they have been talking to each other and calling and asking what can they do now. And they are trying to make sure that they still have the COD where they can open it back up. So we have work to do. It's a lot of work to do, and it's a lot of things that need to be passed. So you were asking, why do I think that I would be the best one for the state Senate? Is because I've been doing the job for a long time, and I'm doing a excellent job because I've worked very, very hard to get many things passed, to stop bad legislation, to get money back into our district. And what else do you do as a legislator besides policy and making sure that you bring home the monies that that we deserve, that we paid into the system already? So I've been doing the job. I built coalitions. I brought fresh new ideas. And as I said earlier, I am a chairperson of a major committee, and they didn't give it to the only to a woman who happened to be Black and a Democrat just because they like somebody. No, because I work hard and they knew that I could get the job done. I've also had another committee chairmanship in the past, and that was SLOGO, State Local Government Operations. And they looked at what I did with that very important committee also, in order to see whether they wanted to put me or some of the other 55 people that they could have selected into that particular office. Also, you talked about the prison system and those inmates who are being released, and now they're working in the system. It's been a big coalition of legislators who have been working for second chance programs, and I'm one of them, for several years now. And we have when Deal came in, he took some of the initiatives that we had worked on and ironed out and implemented those particular initiatives. But and that's why we have so many programs that the inmates now can do besides just working and not getting paid a decent salary. They can take classes and courses. They can learn different trades so that when they get out, they can be productive citizens again. And I'm working with about 8 families right now. You can't just say, oh, I want this prisoner out. He served X amount of years. It's you have to go through the process and through the parole board and actually talk to everyone in parole on both sides of the aisle, the ones who have been hurt by the crime and those who are the criminals. And many of them are nonviolent offenders who are getting out now, but it takes still about 2 or 3 years to get them out. So while they're working in halfway houses, they do earn an amount now, and it is banked. They do have so much they can spend and so much that's banked. So they might not be able to get out and buy a new house or something, but they will be able to get out and be self-sufficient. At least that's what we, especially in the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, continue to work on every single year. We still go to the corrections department, we still meet with them, and we still make sometimes it's little baby steps of changes, I'll say, but we make sure that something is done to get toward the goal of making sure that we have a second chance program and stop recidivism with our inmates as well.
Thank you so much for that question, for that response. I'd like to turn it over to Lula Gilliam. You have the floor. Thank you.
Ms. Gilliam, if you would give me just one moment to just tailor the question one more time.
Okay.
In terms of the third question, I think the information that we're getting is wonderful from both of the candidates from the incumbent and the candidate prior to, but we are not focused. That question is not focused on the prison inmates. The question is focused on the corporations. What can be done to make those corporations pay living wages so that those living wages are usable for prisoners once they are released? So all of the information that the candidate and the incumbent has given before has been wonderful. But what the question is about is tailored to doing something to make the corporations pay a living wage. So they don't get this discount on prison labor, as opposed to giving them a discount on prison labor, that money goes to the prisoners so that they can use it to potentially buy a house. If you've been working for 10 years, why don't you have enough? And you've been saving 70% of what would have been your wages. Why don't you have enough money to buy a house? So that's really what the question is tailored to. One of our chat persons also mentioned that a change in the Constitution might be one of those things because of the status that prisoners have in our Constitution as vis-a-vis the state. So if you could, when you answer that question, and if there's time, if the candidates could go back and answer that question again, we're asking specifically what can be done to make corporations pay a living wage to prisoners so that those funds that they are not paying now can be used by that same prisoner to go out, and that would help them not go back to bad situations. And I apologize for the interruption, but I hope that clarifies the question better.
All right, we will go back to Ms. James. You have the floor for 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, I was trying to read some of the comments in the chat room. So you want me to specifically talk about corporations and getting them to pay livable wages, correct?
That is correct. Absolutely.
Okay, that's private companies, and they it's very difficult to get them to pay citizens who are just getting hired by them, getting a living wage and a decent salary in the state of Georgia, which is a right to work state. Unfortunately, we try to change it every year, but we have not done it thus far. And I mean, I'm not talking about me while I've been there. I'm talking about 20 and 30 years. They've had this in place. And every single year, we try to change it. So all we can do is corporations, encourage them, and hope that it can in the books. But we also have to go to the corrections department to get it pushed in, and the commissioner of corrections.
Okay, are you ready for me?
Yes, we're going to go to you, Ms. Gilliam, and then we will go back to Mr. Glanton so he can re-answer that question. You may proceed.
I believe in shaming folks like that, and I would utilize my leverage with organizations such as the NAACP, the Urban League, and also, the Department of Corrections, because they really have to be shamed into doing this. Legislation is great too, but press releases, people really don't know. A lot of people don't really know how much money these companies are making and paying prisoners 50 cents an hour or less. So once I think that we let the constituents know, let the voting public know what's going on, that, companies like Victoria's Secrets or whatever, or whoever those companies are, we put them on blast. We put them on blast, and we also legislate as well, because we have to get this done. This prison industrial complex is decimating our communities. And you're right, when they come back into our communities, when the prisoners come back into our communities, they should be able to have paid off their restitution, get them a house or a car or whatever that's needed. But they should also have access to the Hope Career Grant, which is tuition free, that they can take living wage training while they're there incarcerated. But yeah, I think shaming though these corporations and through putting them on public blast through public advisories is going to be helpful, because so many people don't even know that the Prison Corporation of America, these privatized prison systems, that they're taking full advantage of incarcerated individuals. And did you want me to answer the rest?
Yes, please.
Okay, so yeah, definitely pay prisoners living wages. And then the action plan for the hospital, their certificate of need, you know, I stand by what I said initially, is to get together with the mayors, the city council people in all of the cities that would be affected here in South Fulton, and working with our parties that are, you know, elected officials at the state level. So working in concert with those groups, I think we can definitely get something done. And why do I feel that I'm the best candidate? I'm doing every day what you all are talking about. You know, I work with young people who are, you know, highly at risk or challenged every day. I have young people who are in the Department of Juvenile Justice who come out and come into my community-based program that I've had for 32 years, and helping them get a GED, training them for post-secondary options that will end poverty, will end generational poverty. One young person, for example, you know, came to our program, had been in the Department of Juvenile Justice for 3 years, came to our program, got his GED. I put him over at Atlanta Technical College, paid for everything that he needed. He's now a commercial electrician with a multinational company, making 6 figures a year. That's life altering, that's life changing, and that's sustainable self-sufficiency. That's what I'm about, and that's what I want to bring to the entirety of District 35, to find our young people that have disconnected and to make sure that they have everything that they need to thrive.
Thank you so much. All right, now I'd like to turn it over to Mike Glanton to answer that third question. You have 2 minutes to answer that question. Thank you so much.
Thank you again for whoever asked that question. I would definitely start looking at legislation that takes a hard look at our partnerships and how we form these partnerships with people in prisons. You know, too often the prisons have been like this. I'm sure we've all passed a dead carcass or something on the side of the road, and you see those vultures hovering around it. Those are corporations looking at our prisons, especially in urban areas like Atlanta and Georgia, where we live, that are locking up disproportionately a lot of people. And these corporations are building on the backs of these prisoners at a not livable wage. And somebody else said something earlier about how it's hard for companies to give people that aren't in prison livable wages. So those are things that we need to start addressing as well, because we're in 2022. No way that minimum wage should still be at the level that it is at, as well as these prisoners that are out here making companies millions of dollars while they're incarcerated and not getting compensated. Now we're putting them back out there without the support that they need. Now they're back incarcerated because they started with nothing, and then you're giving them nothing to put them back out there. So I definitely would want to start taking a hard look at how we choose these partnerships, and now going back to get these corporations to agree upon raising that, because it is right. And so as a state senator, I would want to start doing things that just are simply the right things to do. You know, I understand that when you get downtown, it's not easy. You know, I'm fortunate enough that I have relationships downtown that we can nurture and build on, but also there are people looking forward to meeting new ideas and new people coming downtown to be able to focus on the growth of our community. So I definitely would take a hard look at how we form those partnerships and those corporations coming into the prison system, because at the end of the day, I told y'all, this is like a carcass and those vultures around. So they came there for a reason, because there was food, there was opportunity. So if there's opportunity, then they'll do what it takes to be able to get that opportunity. And if that means that we have to raise the stakes a little more to ensure that people have a valuable and a great opportunity once they are released back into the society, then that's what we have to do. We just have to be bold enough to fight for our community.
So much. I'm gonna pass it back over to Rye Brown for any additional questions in the chat. Rod, you're on mute if you can hear me.
Sorry about that. Yes, I also apologize about the lighting. I have it on and bright, and if you can't see me, I apologize for that. I heard a comment that I wasn't visible, but that's not by design. The question that is continuously happening in the chat is about the hospital, and our constituents aren't happy with what they've heard thus far, and what they are hoping for was more specificity in terms of plans. So my understanding from what we've heard so far is information about what had happened in the past, information about what is happening now in terms of the other hospital closing its emergency room, and then information about the fact that there was a plan with some doctors who were in the process of trying to do things and they stopped because of COVID. But the question it seems that our constituents want to have answered is, given the situation and given the background that you guys have laid, you all have laid out, what is it that you intend to do now to move us forward? What plan do you have now to move us forward? And how can that be implemented? Is there any way that we can assist?
Who would like to take that question first? Ms. Gilliam, you have the floor. Thank you.
Now, I still stand by, meeting with the mayor, city council, and the delegation from Fulton County. We're always so busy doing studies. We know that there's a need. City of South Fulton has 100,000 people plus. City of Fairburn and also Union City. There are enough citizens in this area that should dictate that there's another hospital. But we have to definitely have those municipalities, those leaders of those municipalities on board. And then, since there is a certificate of need out there, let's see what we can do. Let's talk to some of the doctors in the area who are ready to move forward as well. But it's going to take collaboration, and it's also going to take the push from the community to get these things done.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just thanking her for a response.
I second that, with being able to get on the ground and unify our municipalities and meet with our city councils on trying to get this certificate of need. And also, we also want to control the cost of healthcare. We don't want to bring in healthcare facilities that are hovering around us like the prison, like the corporations on the prison system, in terms of creating another hardship for us just because we want help and we need support. So that would also be one of my first action plans. And currently not a legislator, so I can't tell you that I can put this legislation up at this moment, but that's definitely one of my first action plans, because I've also just been through it, in terms of lack of healthcare facilities in our area.
Thank you so much for that. Ms. James, would you like to address this question?
And this is Senator James, and I want to tell you that we are working on it. You heard about the COD from me, because I've already been working with the people, and I want to continue to do that. It's not easy. So you can, in a perfect world, we could just go out and say, we want a hospital over here and get one. But it's so much that has to go into it, even to get one bill passed. A bill might even pass on both sides, the House and the Senate, and then it'll get vetoed. So we have been working on this, and we're going to continue until we get a hospital. When the city of South Fulton was one of the folk that looked at it, I don't want to call names, 2 or 3 of them are still there. but I sent those people over to talk to them and talk about, do you want a hospital? Where would you put it? And just they wanted to know exactly what we wanted. They were going to have town hearings, town hall meetings about it. All of those things did not happen yet. But just because they didn't happen, this will be the 5th anniversary of the city of South Fulton. So happy birthday, city of South Fulton. But they were brand new, and they were working together and trying to do so many different things. And every year we have legislation. The legislation first has to go through one of the House or the Senate, and it goes through 3 committees before it gets out of there to go to the other committee. And then it goes through the same process, and all this within 40 days. And then it has to get passed, and then it has to go to the governor to be signed. But one thing about it, it has to have a fiscal note. It has to have a fiscal note, meaning, and it has to be advertised in the paper that we want to do this. And the advertisement is for a week. So that's time consuming within that 40 days. And the fiscal note is how much is it going to cost and where's the money going to come from? And so millions and millions of dollars are needed for a hospital. It took Fayette County, 15 years to get a hospital. It took Sandy Springs years and years. So those hospitals don't just because you ask for them happen. So work together, citizens. If you want one, work with your legislators who you have put in office, so that they won't be standing there talking to themselves when they stand in front of the mic in the well asking for these things. So we need petitions. We need all of the cities and who are surrounded, who will be using it, to come together and talk about it and find out where this money is going to come from and how we can get a COD approved, and then a hospital. Thus, a hospital will be in our area.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Pass it back to you, Mr. Brown.
Well, I just want to thank everyone for addressing the question more specifically, and hopefully you can see me now. I was able to get a different light in that's just brighter. Is that working?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, and I will continue to mind the chat sessions and bring questions to you as they come in.
There's a few questions that recently came in, so.
That may have happened while I was trying to get the light situation together. Hold on one moment, I'll check on them, okay?
All right. Now, while he's checking, Senator James, it appears that we have asked our city council as well as our mayor for city of South Fulton, but they refer us back to you. So can you comment on that, if we should be speaking to the city or we should be speaking to your office?
Say it again. You referred to.
So when we ask questions to our city council as well as our mayor's office, they refer us back to your office. So should we be speaking to them or should we be speaking to you? Because it seems like the buck is getting passed.
No, the buck. I hope not. I hope that's not happening. When you speak to me, you have my numbers, my emails, I'm accessible. I'm a 24/7 person. So people call me throughout the day, evening, night, and I always respond to everyone. Even when I can't help them, I let them know what they need to do and work with them. So no. Are you talking about the invitation here? I look back and I see it's an invitation that came Monday, and Monday was the 40th day of the session, sine die. And we worked from 9 in the morning until after midnight without even leaving the floor of the House and Senate. So no, I didn't see any invitation then. And so like I said, I found out yesterday, and I'm here on the line with you. I cleared my calendar so that I could be here And I'm happy to talk to you and answer any question that I can answer. When I don't know the answer, I'll go get the answer or tell you where you can find it. So thank you. Thank you.
I think the question is referring to, since the city has been formed, our city council has referred us back to your office or back to our senator's office. So should we be talking to our city council about this, or should we be speaking to your office specifically related to the hospital issue and the certificate of need?
Oh, well, I think the city would have to be getting that, although my office would assist. That's what we're there to do, to assist and to bring people together. So I guess you would have to talk to, if the mayor wants one and the city council agrees, then we need to talk to those people who can make this happen. Make us, and then we got to come up with the money to make sure that we can pay for a hospital. And I know that we need one, and I know about healthcare. In fact, I know all too well about healthcare and the needs for it. I've been tried and tested, losing loved ones from a son, a husband, being in the hospital for 6 months with COVID. Oh, I know all about it. And I wish we had one right in our area. No, we did not have one, but I've been fighting, and I fought from the hospital bed. So I didn't even stop. I'm not twiddled my thumbs or looked into space. I've been working for us, and because I'm proud to be a resident of this city of South Fulton and the area of South Fulton, and we have to work together. So, yeah. So yes, contact me, and I'll help to get all of us together.
All right,
and I can share anything that I know about, and I can do research. So you can let me know that. My office works for me. So if you need something, you talk to me or my office, and it's the same person.
All right, thank you so much. Just a quick time check. We have 8 minutes left. Are all of the candidates okay with staying off for another 15 minutes past the 8:30 end time?
Sure.
All right, Mr. Glanton,
I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
are you okay with staying off for another 15 minutes past the 8:30 end time?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you so much. Now, I will turn it back over to Rod to continue going through questions in the chat box. Thank you, Rod.
You're quite welcome. Thank you so much. The questions that I've been fielding are, there is a concern from one of our constituents that says that they would like to know whether or not candidates would be willing to participate in media pushes in order to get legislation passed or impacted or on the radar. The second question was, someone wanted to know, how did the situation at the Cleveland Avenue Hospital deteriorate to the point where it is now? A third question was, if the governor-elect is Democratic and the legislative bodies are majority Democratic, what would be your first bill and why would that be in order to get passed? So just to reiterate the three questions, one was whether or not candidates are willing to do a media push in order to get situations like a new hospital on the legislative agenda. The second one is, how did the hospital that we have on Cleveland Avenue deteriorate to this current situation? And the third one is, in the new election, if we're pro-democratic in terms of the governor and the legislative body, what would be your first bill and why? And that would be for each of the candidates, please.
We will start with you, Mr. Glanton. You have the floor. Please unmute your microphone. Thank you.
All right, so the first question would definitely be yes. I would definitely, because sometimes that's the number one thing that we have to do. We have to start bringing this legislation and these initiatives to the forefront with the people. And fortunate to us, we have media that is at our beck and call or at our fingertips at some point. So I would definitely be in support of doing media blitzes or whatever it needs to be able to get awareness for issues and to be able to come up with solutions. So hopefully those media blitzes or media opportunities will turn into a lot of ideas and solutions to help us get, past the point of whatever the initiative is. Funding, I believe it was funding. We live in a state where a lot of people don't have health care. And one of the biggest things that we have plaguing us in the state of Georgia is that we haven't expanded Medicaid and Medicare. Right now, we're leaving $3.5 billion on the table in the state of Georgia. I don't know about y'all, but I think that $3.5 billion could start helping in a huge way. There are also about 678,000 Georgians that will receive health care if we expanded Medicaid and Medicare in the state of Georgia. Here's another number. There's over 250,000 people right now that don't have access to health care. So we're in a dire state when it comes to that. So I'm in belief that is part of the reason why that hospital is closing, because it's always a funding situation. So I would definitely be a proponent of that. And so that segues into the third question, which is if there's a Democratic elected governor and a House and a Senate. I think that was the question, right, Mr. Rowe?
That is correct. And favorable conditions like that, what would be your first bill and why?
Expanding Medicaid and Medicare. I just explained why. We would definitely be bringing back money and jobs to the state of Georgia, as well as creating an opportunity for longevity and health for our citizens of the state of Georgia, by expanding Medicaid and Medicare. And just a little dinger, I would want to be working on education and economic development too, because I know those are big proponents to moving us forward. So I'm all about legislation and trying to be bipartisan as possible if we aren't in the majority. But if we are in the majority, I'm all about trying to push that proponent of expanding Medicaid and Medicare in the state of Georgia, as well as working on education and economics and trying to tie the two, because we have to get our children and our youth back on board that may not go to college. We have to start ensuring that we're protecting them as well.
Thank you very much. Which of you would like to go next?
I will.
Please go ahead.
Okay. First of all, yes, I do believe in the influence and the impact of the media. I would definitely support a media push in dealing with the issue of the CON. And also, how did South Fulton Hospital deteriorate to the point that it is? It's just like with anything. How do our schools deteriorate? Is, you don't show up. When there are things happening, you're not there to let your voice be known. I've gone to PTA meetings at Creekside when my daughter was there, 1,600 students. There would be maybe 5 or 10 parents in the entire meeting. So that's how we lose sight of things, is by not participating. You cannot elect either one of us and just leave us out there to just go willy-nilly all over the place. You have to hold us accountable. That's the same thing with hospitals, with schools, with being a politician. For example, we have 142,000 registered voters in this district, and you have 40,000 people that decided on who their state senator would be. You can't keep doing that. And in terms of what would I do first, I would strengthen voting rights, because now there is this push to erase people of color from the rolls. So my first thing I would be pushing toward would be strengthening voting rights. And I agree, expanding Medicaid and Medicare. But we have to hold ourselves accountable. You cannot keep saying, well, the politicians don't do this, that, or the other, but you don't come out and vote for anyone new. So we have to start holding ourselves accountable and asking ourselves, what have we done to participate in the demise of these things that are important in our communities?
Thank you so very much. Senator?
Of course, I would go for the media push. In fact, we use it as much as possible and try to get positive media in every issue that we have in our area. And it does work, but we don't have some people get a bully pulpit and get up and rant and rave. And, often we have to work together on what our message is going to be. And we know what our purpose is, but we need to work together on what we're going to say and do, and get our media to see that, not to find flaws in anything, but to help us to move forward. So, and that can happen, and that does happen sometimes. And what happened to South Fulton Hospital? The same thing that happened to about 47 rural hospitals. They closed. The monies, the healthcare workers have decreased dramatically, and South Fulton was never had a bad reputation anyway, and never could strengthen that, even though they've changed from one hospital to Wellstar to Pruitt to this and that. They've changed 3 or 4 times over the years, and they never did strengthen their reputation. So people stopped going there, and then some people didn't want to work there, and consequently, they're having to close and be a urgent care. And urgent care has been somewhere that you can go for a minute, but they're gonna still send you to the ER. So you're gonna have to end up going to a hospital anyway. So we definitely need a hospital in South Fulton. And I hope that this conversation that we've had here this evening will motivate people to come and get aboard on this, the talks that we've already had, and make sure that we find the monies needed, and that we get the support on the national level and on the state level. You got to have it on both. And especially if we get Democratic leadership changes in with governor and the House and the Senate. We're all the minority right now. And so if we do change, I had written down voting rights when you first asked, because that is what has really drastically changed, and that's what they put some idiotic laws in place, saying you can't give someone a bottle of water, you can't do anything. Now they want the GBI to go and investigate if there's some kind of problem at the polls. So that means that we're going to be criminals if we violate some rule that an election board has put up. That's really what it means. In other words, I know that it'll probably be overturned one day, but if we had new administration, then we could work immediately on it, because I see that the people who are pushing forth to be in those top positions, that's one of their number one issues. Okay, and then of course, we've been trying to expand Medicare for a long time, and we're losing money. We're losing federal dollars we don't even get, because this state of Georgia, would not accept Medicaid care under Obama. And it's all, if racism is still alive and well. So we need to look at the real problems here and make sure that we get our fair share. It's our tax dollars. We need to get it back.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Ms. Gilliam?
Yeah, I answered already.
Okay. If you can lower your hand.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
Okay.
Pass it back to you, Rod.
Well, I believe that we are coming to, well, we're exceeding our time. And so what I'd like is to try and maybe get a consensus of what we have been talking about, at least in the chat lines. And the major theme, it seems, is the hospital. The second major theme would be criminal justice reform. And the last thing was about specificity in terms of the things that you would actually put in place. So if you guys in your closing remarks could just revamp those three themes, then I think that would be helpful for our constituency. And so those three themes are about the hospital, about the criminal justice reform, and then about your action plans. And Ms. Donzella, Senator Donzella, if you could start, because you've not started most of the time. If you could start, then we'll go in reverse this time.
Okay, well, definitely, I want to say thank you again for this evening. And I look forward to continuing to serve you. It's an honor to serve, and it's a lot of hard work, but I know that and I don't mind it. And I'm out here ready, willing, and able to continue to do what's needed to be done. I know I'm the only one that can really get anything done in the legislature immediately. And we need so much. So it's not that, you know, you snap your fingers and it'll happen. You have to work toward it. You have to work for years. And yes, I said I build coalitions because I have. And it takes time and energy and effort to meet the people, to meet their needs and to negotiate. Everything is about negotiation up there. And so I've learned that, and I'm very proud of that. I've brought back things from other countries to our country, to our state of Georgia, to make sure that we have our fair share of tax dollars, that we have good procedures in place for different issues. And of course, serving on the education committee is my number one goal. And I know you wanted us to talk about the hospital. We've talked about that. And I can just reiterate that I will do everything that I can to get a hospital in South Fulton. I also would like to talk about the fact that I've been working on the second chance programs, and I'm going to continue to do that so that we can have inmates with good programs that are in place already, that they voluntarily go into, and that they work with the corporations who will pay them a decent amount. And then maybe we can start the media blast like you were talking about, and put some pressure on corporations, but you know, it's not going to happen overnight. So that's why I continue to say that, because I don't see anybody up at the Capitol in our meetings. We have meetings 3 and 4 a day during the session, and you will see what goes on in those meetings and who's speaking for you, who's standing up and speaking out, and who's being listened to, who's being heard. And so I promise all of you that send me back, let me finish the work that we're doing now and the work that we've been working on for a long time, and help to get the city of South Fulton, Fairburn, Union City, and all working together as one. And of course, that includes Douglas County and Lithia Springs and Villa Rica. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You're
Ms.
welcome.
Louise William, would you be willing to go next?
Sure. First of all, I'm not a person that can be told no easily. I am fierce and I'm relentless, and I'm not afraid at all to take on whatever challenges we have to take on in this district to make it better. I'm convinced that we can do better, but I also know that we must do better in order to save our young people. You know, we have to do better. Now, in terms of the hospital, it's something that I would definitely take on, because it's a passionate need as being spoken on from the people in this virtual. So that's definitely something I would take on. And in terms of criminal justice reform, you know, the Department of Juvenile Justice has a 65% recidivism rate. They serve as fodder. Our children who are locked up serve as fodder into the adult system. We have to tackle education. We have to tackle who is in there over those young people. We absolutely have to tackle criminal justice reform because it's a farce. Governor Deal, you know, to me, it was just words. It was tied up and it was pretty on paper. But in the end, there wasn't a lot that was done in terms of turning things around. So we have to talk about education. We have to talk about training for living wage opportunities for our people who are returning from prison. And we also, you know, but give me an opportunity. And I promise you, if you're not satisfied, then don't send me back in 2 years if you're not satisfied. But I guarantee you, because I am a person that will get things done. I've been doing it through my agency for the past 32 years. And even before that, even before I even started this agency, ask anyone who knows me, I can give you a list. I am a social justice warrior, and I can work in collaboration with people to get things done. You have a choice, so give me a chance to show you what I can do.
Thank you so much. And we appreciate your response. Are you ready for your response, Ms. Grant?
Yes, sir. We're in unprecedented times right now. We're in times that our politics are more polarizing than anything. We're in times to where people also don't trust government because they don't understand their involvement. We're in times that people feel like they're at the mercy of government. So, you know, part of my run for this office is to restore that trust back into government from the people, to restore that accountability back into people, to understand that, you know, you sent us downtown not to just do what we want to do, but to do the people's work. So I'll reiterate again as far as what I plan to do with the hospital, you know, and that's get my municipalities on board and getting that certificate of need done, and to be able to get that legislation and find those funding. You know, if we are fortunate enough to be able to get the governor's house and as well as start to change the Senate and the House, then we need to expand Medicaid and Medicare to ensure that we are covering Georgians going forward with our healthcare needs, because we don't know if another pandemic may come. So we don't want to be in a reactive state. We want to be in a proactive state. Criminal justice, I would definitely work harder on the second chance programs as well as new reentry programs that are dealing with the new issues inside of prisons these days. You know, I know a lot of gangs are spurred from prisons and things like that. So I would definitely be looking to rehabilitate people instead of just housing them, especially from a juvenile perspective. You know, we'll include more educational opportunities and certifications from the juvenile perspective. That way we won't just be housing them until we put them back out without proper knowledge because they've been in jail and juvenile system for 2 years and haven't learned anything, and they go right back to a gang. That's very attractive in pushing somebody into that situation. So we have to ensure that while we are having them in the system, that we're doing everything to rehabilitate them properly so that they will be productive citizens coming back out, and they won't be going back in, and will lower the recidivism rate. As well as one of my action plans, you know, I'm torn apart when I see that we live in a district of about 202,000 people. And traditionally, in a non-presidential election year, not in a general, in a primary, we're only getting about 16,000 people that vote. You know, the last election that I participated in 2018, in the primary, it was a total of about 16,000 people that voted. That's 8%. We have to raise that voter turnout. And the way that people are so disconnected is because they don't feel involved. So one of my missions is to be able to bring that back, that involvement back. And one of my parts of my action plan before I even take office in the Capitol is to be able to tour my district, Douglasville, Union City, Palmetto, Fairburn, Lithia Springs, as well as City of South Fulton and Southwest Atlanta, as well as what we've been redistricting, because our districts have drastically changed in some points. But I would spend that time touring the district with a notepad, engaging with the constituents, being able to get their concerns, their ideas, their wants, their wishes, so that when I am downtown, yeah, we have to fall into legislation that's already going on, but I would also be looking to help by keeping that legislation close to my heart, the legislation close to my mind that my constituents are talking about, so that I know what I'm crafting legislation based on, so that my constituents can see the results. And you won't have so many people feeling like they aren't getting this or they aren't getting that. And what we can't do, we want to be humble enough to bring people to the table that are experts. You know, as a state senator, I'm not going to go to the table acting like I know everything. One of the first pieces of action that I would do is bring the other candidates as well as the incumbent to my table to ensure that their voice is still heard, because if they're running for office or they're representing in office, they're courageous, they're brave, they're smart, they're knowledgeable. I would definitely utilize that in terms of unifying our community. Now we can take the constituents that voted for 1, the constituents that voted for 2, the constituents that voted for 3 and 4, and we can unite those constituents to one common goal, which is moving our community forward, as well as the city councils that aren't on board with each other. We want to be able to use that senatorial office as influence to be able to help them understand how we have to get our constituents back on board. Because when we argue, when we fight, when we disagree, our constituents suffer. So I definitely want to make sure I'm keeping my constituents close to my heart in terms of what I plan on doing for my community. Also, you know, I look at things, I'm so thankful that the Georgia legislature passed House Bill, my apologies, I turned it over. I'm so thankful that they passed House Bill 1013. That was a very bipartisan bill, but that bill addressed mental health. See, the mind is the head of everything. And if we're not addressing our mental situations, then we're not able to function properly. So now this bill ensures and gives people an opportunity to get that support through their insurance. So they're not worried about how they're going to pay for this, or people don't go get help because they don't have an opportunity to pay for this. So now with us expanding Medicaid and Medicare in the state of Georgia, we're also addressing our mental health issues that get us back on board, because we all are dealing with issues. And as a small business owner myself, I look to support small business initiatives, as well as bringing opportunities and new innovative initiatives like incubators, something that I'm already doing with my own business in terms of supporting having different facets of a business support the one initiative. So that way people can start collectively being able to get ourselves out of the red and into the green. So if you send me downtown as a state senator, I want to be held accountable. I want to make sure that we're focusing on what my constituents want. And I want to make sure that we're raising the voter turnout and bringing more people to the table, including the youth. So when I take office, I will take office with a succession plan. I don't plan on being in there forever. I plan on being in there, doing some great work, getting some great things done, bringing my community together, and then allowing the next generation to step up and take the role.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And that will conclude our session for today. I just wanted to thank the candidates for coming out and participating. And I would like to let everyone know that on Tuesday, April the 12th at 7 p.m., we will be featuring Roger Bruce, Robert Dawson, Rashawn Kemp, and Monique McCoy. And again, thank you so much. And thank you to the candidates. And please don't forget that on Wednesday, April 13th, we do have a city council work session for the city of South Fulton. Thank you so much.
Mr. Snelling, can we plug our websites or at the end? I know I got so passionate. I'm sorry that I left that out, but I definitely want to plug my website so that people can reach out to me. We got a month and 20 days left in this election. So it's now it's time when we got to start garnering that support and giving people that initiative and that transparency to be able to see. So my website is
please put your information in the chat.
No problem.
But if all the candidates can put your information in the chat, our voters can reach out to you.
What about telling them May 24th is the election and when early voting starts on the 2nd of May?
Yeah. Would you like to tell the voters?
Yes. Early voting begins on May 2nd and it ends the Friday before election, which is May 24th. So you have several weeks now to look at our platforms, our records, to call us, and I'll talk to you personally, or you can look on my website and I'll put it on the chat room.
Thank you so much. Ms. Gilliam, do you have anything to add?
Well, people can also register to vote up to April 25th, I believe.
Yes.
Thank you so much for dropping those gems for us. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you all also. We appreciate it, and good luck to everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for
Take care.
We're all on the campaign trail.
All right.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye.